Today I want to talk about something that we do every fall or early winter, depending on if it snowed yet. So what we try to do is we look at the past growing season and we try to understand what has happened. We want to take a good look at what we did good at and what we did poorly at. What crops really thrived and why they thrived, and what crops suffered and didn't do as well, and maybe complete crop failures. And we want to understand, was there a catastrophe in the weather? Was there a big problem with management? Did we have a lack of labor? It could be a million things, but if we can identify what happened to the crop to make it either really good or not so good, we want to identify why. And then we take what we learned from this last year, we apply that to our records from the year before that, and the year before that, and the entire decade, 2 decades, 5 decades, just looking back over history of the ground we're growing in, and all of the things that we've learned as farmers and gardeners, from everything I've learned in my lifetime, from what my father learned in his lifetime, from what my grandparents learned and their parents learned, all the way back on a particular crop. Now, a lot of people don't have a legacy like that. Fortunately, I do. I can go back through my family history, and that parallels very closely my growing history, because we've always been very close to the land, growing our own food supply. So we want to take all the information we can possibly get, and we want to apply that to what we are doing next year. So all of this is for the purpose of looking at next spring. What are we going to do next spring to have the very best crop we can possibly have? And we're using all the information that we've had in the past. And we already understand what has happened in the last 5 decades. We already know that because we review that often, every year. What we don't know, the new data that we have, is this past growing season. What was different this past growing season from all those other years, if anything? What have we learned new? What new sciences are being shared? What are we learning from the webinars and the YouTubes and the Patreons that we're subscribed to, from the great people who are doing things, from the pioneers of the world who are creating and growing? What are they doing? What breakthroughs are they making? So these are the things that we want to look at. I made a few notes here to share. When I'm looking at the next year's crop, I want to look at what I have now. Okay, what seeds do I have? What square footage do I have? Meaning how much land, how big is my garden? Do I need to make the garden bigger to grow enough food? Do I need to rent another piece of land, or do I need to purchase a piece of land? Do I need to start a community garden so that I can have more people involved? What do I have? What are my assets? Another thing is, what seeds do I have? Was I able to save the appropriate amount of seeds from the appropriate species this year? Did I have a complete crop failure, a seed crop failure? I wasn't able to produce seeds this year. So these are all the things that we need to look at to see what we have, what resources we have right now to produce next year's crop. And so that brings us to the next question of, what do I need? Do I need to purchase some seed? Do I need to contact my friends and neighbors in my community and say, I had a crop failure of this certain type of seed I was wanting to raise. Do you have any of that so I could regrow it next year? Crop failures happen. It's not a shameful thing to let your neighbors and friends know that your seed crop failed. It's something that you need to communicate so that people can help you. That's why community exists. You need to look at your breeding programs. You need to say, okay, I've been trying to create this this perfect tomato, or this perfect fig, or this perfect whatever it is that you're working with in your garden that you want to make better. And you need to think about that and say, okay, what do I need to do different next year? Was I actually getting the characteristics I wanted in the product that I was picking? Was the flavor just not quite there? Was the disease resistance not quite there? And you need to start thinking about that. Did you have a huge insect infestation in a crop that you didn't expect? And what can you do about that? So these are things that we need to think about right now at this time of year. I like to do this in the late fall, early winter. But you don't want to wait till late winter to do this, because you need to make these decisions now, because late winter can be too late to get seeds ordered, because somebody may run out of something that you need. And that is the next thing here on my list, is we need to order what you need before Christmas. I like to, this takes time, okay? This takes time. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to think this through. I've been thinking about this for a while. I started thinking about this probably like each year in the growing season. I start thinking about this about August, September for sure. October, I'm starting to collect my thoughts and ideas. I had a meeting with Jared and Selena here a few weeks ago in October, and we sat down and we said, okay, what went well, what didn't go well? And for them, it wasn't the growing so much, because I was doing the majority of the growing, the actual planting and harvesting and the growing of the food. But they were taking it to their house and in their kitchen, and they were feeding their family. And they had, there were interns here on the ranch this year. There were family members here. There were a lot of people here. At times they would have 20 people sitting around their dinner table. So they were feeding quite a few people, which is pretty wonderful. And so it's great to get their feedback. So I sat down with them for about an hour, and I just took notes in my notebook. Did you have enough food? What didn't you have enough of? What did you want more of? What can we do better on next year to have you a superior food product? So these are the kind of things that that you need to be thinking about. How much food is in your freezer? How much food is dehydrated? How much food went into bottles? How much food is in the root cellar? Are you going to have food available when starvation season comes? What is starvation season? We are so far removed from, as a culture, we're so far removed from nature that we don't even know what starvation season is. So I'm just going to tell you, starvation season is the springtime. In the ancient world, even as ancient as 150 years ago, there were still people who would experience shortages of food in the springtime, because you would be able to store your harvest over the winter, but all winter long you're eating. In the springtime, you're planting your crops, but your food doesn't start harvesting again until summertime, when the grains would start being harvested in July. So, you know, May and June, those are slim pickings sometimes. That's why livestock was so important, because you could still have eggs, milk, cheese, butter, whey, cream, and all the different things you can make from dairy. And of course you would have meat from the livestock as well. But livestock are simply a part of human existence when you look at history. So anyway, but this is the time of year to look at what we're producing and to make a plan. We need 6 to 8 weeks to make a plan. Write down the plan and get a good plan in the early stages, and then just before Christmas, usually about December 15th to the 20th is when I put in a seed order. Some years it's a big order. Some years it's been thousands of dollars. Some years it's a couple $100, just depending on what I have. And I've saved seeds a lot. This year I have saved more seed than any other time in my life. But a lot of times I have perpetuated and saved certain varieties, and it's been super fun and wonderful and awesome. I'm hoping to not make a seed order this year for the first time in my life. So I need to go through all of my seeds, because I'm going to see what I have, and then I'm going to go through my needs, see what I need. I'm going to compare those two, and then I'm going to make a plan. And it's really all based on how hungry are the people in my life that I am feeding, whether they are paying customers or whether they are friends and family, whether they are the poor and the needy in my community. What are the needs that my gifts and talents are fulfilling? Do I need to grow more food? Do I need to grow less of something so that I can utilize that piece of ground to grow something else, so that I can be the most efficient as possible? So that is something we're going to be doing, and we're going to be looking at. And I have not created a plan yet, but what I do have is I am pretty solid in my mind of what we grew too much of and what we didn't grow enough of. Like fava beans. We grew more fava beans than people ate and enjoyed. We're not going to grow as many of those this year. So that same square footage, I could grow more spinach, because we didn't have quite enough spinach when we needed it. During the summertime, the tomatoes and peppers came on, and they were all ready for salsa, and we didn't have enough cilantro to go with it. So I need to make sure that the cilantro is going really well through the summer. Now, cilantro is a cool weather crop, and so it didn't do as well. But if I would have grown more of it and had it in shadier areas, it would have done better. So these are things to think about, and these are things to work on. So thank you very much. Hopefully this is helping you have the very best garden of your life.